welcome to my channel, What Colorful Worlds. In today's video, I want to go over everything that I colored in October, and I also want to go over my coloring plans for November. Part of this video is going to introduce to you something that I had done, which dictated the coloring choices that I made. And this is something on Instagram that I had created, which was a hashtag called 13 for Halloween. So the story begins with me on Instagram asking my friend Sabina if she wanted to do a Halloween color along with me. And I had this idea called 13 for Halloween, where you do 13 pages for the month of Halloween. And she had the idea that instead of having it be pages, to have 13 elements and then organize it in the shape of a bingo. And I loved this idea. I love bingos. I don't know, anything that kind of gamifies adds a bit of fun to it. So we created what we called 13 for Halloween Bingo. And this one had different categories where you could have different creatures and you can have different elements and you could have even different color palettes. And the way that you play it is completely up to you. Either you could just aim to do one little element and have that be your inspiration for 13 for Halloween. You could aim to get a bingo, which is an entire row, and you can also aim to get like a complete bingo, which is the entire set. So I was very excited to run this with her, and it was a wonderful experience. I'm gonna start by showcasing the work of everyone who had contributed. It's been wonderful having so many different people contribute to this. I have been so grateful that a lot of people did this and it took off so much, and it was also really fun to get to know other Instagram art YouTuber accounts and or just general Instagram colorist accounts, and be able to follow them and kind of like expand my community a bit too. So thank you so much everyone who contributed to the hashtag and joined in. It was a lot of fun to run. The downside of that, I feel, is I started to feel the pressure this month to perform with my coloring as opposed to enjoy my coloring, especially because I had it in my head that because I was running the hashtag, I should make it my personal challenge to try to get all of the elements done as well. And so I had created a video for this actually at the start of October. I created a video of everything that I wanted to color for the month, but I never finished editing it, and then it kind of fell to the wayside. It was also a bit of a tough month for me work-wise and personal life-wise, and so it ended up feeling a bit demotivating in terms of producing my own coloring pages, and I felt very stuck to trying to do only the Halloween coloring pages, which, you know, kind of takes away from the joy of coloring a tiny bit. But what that kind of taught me, I think, is that challenges can be very motivating to get you to color and also get you to color more quantity. It can be motivating to teach you new ways of coloring or color palettes or pick pages that you might not have done otherwise. But as soon as the motivating part ends and the sense of obligation begins, that's when you need to stop. That's the lesson that I've learned from this month. So let me come in here and then show you what I did manage to color, and then kind of go into, based on this lesson that I've learned, what I want to color for next month. So these are the books that I ended up coloring in for this month. Let's begin in chronological order. I started with Worlds Within Worlds, in part because what I had here was a WIP from September that I had not completed. I was almost at the point of completing. And so this is the first one that I just pushed out and then finished. This one here is, sorry, let me adjust my lighting. This one here was hard to do, but in the end very rewarding to do because just the effect is so cool. And I'm going to create a video showing how I do this neon glow soon on this page because it still remains a WIP. But essentially what you do is you have the colors that you want for the neon, you kind of put that along the edges of the design, and then as you build towards the center of the design, it's not just black, it's black mixed with dahlia purple and indigo. And what that's going to do is allow it to have a bit more dimension than if it's just flat black. But I'll show you that technique in a video at some point. So this one was first done for Space-Tember, and that's why I have this beautiful space background. I really love what I did here. I had a base layer of Derwent Inktense pencils following a tutorial by Amy Ward Art for what she had done, also for Space-Tember. And then I deviated from it by on top of it adding my Prismacolor pencils to kind of really push the burnishing effect to make it a lot more rich and deep for colors, because when I did it, it looked a bit flat. When Amy did it, it looked gorgeous. I don't know what happened, but that's why I had to put the Prismacolor pencils on top. And then I looked at a technique from Sarah Renee Clark when she had done her astronaut page, and what she had done is have just this kind of like outline. And when I looked at hers, it wasn't just put black here, it was put some color at the edge and then have that come in towards black towards the center. And that's what creates that glow. Plus you add in some ring lights with your acrylic paint pens, and you add in stars too. Adding in stars, some tips and techniques that I had learned was, one, it's helpful for some of the stars to have this white glow around it and then a center dot. For that one, I was using a brush pen, but you can also do it by having the acrylic and then you smush it with your finger and then put the dot in afterwards. I also learned that it's better to have dots in clusters, and so they're not evenly dispersed, they're in clusters with a lot of blank space in between. And then you throw in however many like shiny stars that you want to make it look starry. But yeah, so that's the pterodactyl page that I had completed with Worlds Within Worlds. And I still have one as a whip to do, but that's okay. And in terms of challenges, this fulfilled Space September. It fulfilled the idea of Neon Halloween, which was Jane's from her Facebook group, The Fantasy World of Kirby Resents. She had that as a challenge, so it fulfilled that. It also fulfilled Creatures of the Night in Jane's Facebook group as well. And for my own bingo, I decided this fit under category 13, which was your own free choice. And so that way it still counted towards my bingo as well. In some ways, I feel like this could count towards Alien, right? Because there's something alien-like about this pterodactyl, emphasized by, you know, the eerie neon colors, emphasized by the galaxy wings. Also, when I was a kid, I saw this movie of, I think it was called The Dark Side of the Moon. It was a really like B-rated movie of people living in the sunless side of the moon and then getting attacked by all of these alien creatures, which essentially looked like pterodactyls. And so maybe this could also fulfill the alien prompt, in which case I would have had 2 prompts done from one page, which is Worlds Within Worlds by Kirby Resents. The next one that I did was from Eerie, and it is in the second tale. I picked this page in part because it fulfills quite a few of my bingo category prompts. It fulfills candle, it fulfills pumpkin, it fulfills cat, bat, plus one of the color palettes. So this brings me up to 5. And with the other page, that's 6 and 7 of my bingo elements done in only 2 pages, which is very efficient. This page I also chose because I want to do 1 Eerie page a month. In part so I can learn her style, and also so that I can be very consistent in getting through her books. And I have all 3 of her books here. I've colored in the second one the most. I used Inktense pencils for this, and I was initially planning on having Inktense be just the base, and then on top of that use coloring pencils, but I loved it so much I just left it as is. The only bleed through that I had was over here. You can kind of see the orange shadowing, and that's because initially I was actually planning on having this done not with Inktense pencils, but with water-based markers. And the only reason it bled through was, I think, because I didn't let the layers dry when I kept on adding more on top. And what that did was damage the paper and seep through to the other end. That's when I stopped. So this is the only one that's colored with those markers, and then I just did the rest in Inktense because you can put the Inktense dry in different layers and then just do one big activation, and then you have your variety of colors without damaging the paper. And so that's why I switched to that. To help me with the light placement, I used Shelly's from Shelly's, I think, Coloring Corner, her page, and I'll put that as a reference here so you can see side by side. I used hers to help me figure out my light source. So different colors, different materials, different techniques, I guess, but I liked having a reference to figure out how I can do my shadowing. So from hers, for example, I figured out how to do the shadow of the broom, the shadow of the skeleton, and then having some light reflect off the edges of the arch here, and then also off of the trick-or-treater's little hat. And that helped me with that a lot. And yeah, it was fun to do. I enjoyed it a lot. With the Inktense, it went really quickly as well. That's kind of like the beauty of Inktense, that it goes really fast. And I was starting to use some paint pens as well. I got like a Posca paint pen I was looking for a neon paint pen. I couldn't find it anywhere without buying an exorbitantly expensive set. But I just found like a pale yellow one, and I just have a bit of acrylic paint pen over there and at the edge here to kind of emphasize some of the highlights. But I made myself not cover up all of Erie's line work this time. In the past, I have been notorious at not liking how thick her lines are and then just cover everything over. But these ones I left, and I'm glad I did, because I think the overall effect is very nice. So yeah, so that's the second page that I've completed, and it brings me up to 7 elements colored from my Halloween bingo. So the next one that I did, I thought would be fast. And this is where the demotivation started to hit. It was towards the middle of the month. I was overwhelmed with how much grading I had to do at work. And I was overwhelmed, I think, just with other things in my personal life, plus running the bingo challenge. And then you hit a page that you feel like you have to complete. Also because I don't like whips, but then you don't feel like you want to complete it, was a bit demotivating. So end effect is beautiful. I think this is a really, really gorgeous page. It just took a lot to get here. The colors that I chose were from Sarah Renee Clark's Color Cubes, and it was 244. I wanted black and purple, and then when I saw this card that had just a touch of red, I thought, yes, that's perfect. So I can have almost everything be black, blue, and purple with hints of reds for like a pop and a highlight. Another thing that I did, which made this so difficult to color, was I tried a new technique where I did everything with a base layer of watercolor pencils, and then we're using regular pencils on top. I saw that a Pictured Purpose on Instagram used to do that, and she did that to save time on coloring because it killed the tooth of the paper and just kind of gave that base coat. For me, it just took forever. So the pencils that I used were the Prismacolor watercolor pencils, the 36 set. I do not recommend those pencils, so don't buy them. They are badly made. My barrels have completely cracked. They're not centered. They're just not well produced as pencils, and therefore not worth your money. And I've had this set though since 2016. So it's been 8 years of holding on to these pencils that I've never used. And so I figured either I have to start using them and just adding them into my daily collection, or I have to get rid of them. So last ditch effort, I used them on here. I'm gonna keep the pencils, I think, because it was interesting to kind of use. I think the colors are fine. But I don't know, I don't own any watercolor pencils except for the Inktense, but those are ink-based, so yeah, they're the only watercolor pencils that I own and have used, really. But the base layer I put down helped me figure out the color placement, and then it just took forever to color on top because I just went slowly because I kept losing interest. You can see here that the end result is still beautiful, right? Like, I'm really proud of the way that I have done these cauldrons. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. And I really love the fact that on these mushrooms, I added a hint of red on the purple. I think that color combo was really, really nice as well. Part of what took forever, however, is you can see that everything has like a really nice white outline to it. That's what took forever. Essentially, I decided that I wanted to have it be black because then it's nice and spooky. But considering these colors are already so dark, if you have a black background against a dark element without much white, it's just going to fade all into black and just look faded out, right? It's not going to look nice. You have to have contrast when you have such dark colors to let it pop. So that's when I was like, I have this idea where I'm going to make this look like a sticker. what if this entire mandala is just a series of stickers that were put together? And that's the effect that I was going for. But the reason that took forever is because of trying to create neat lines. I used my black marker, just like a water-based marker, to do the black outline, and of course that would go over the line, and then I'd have to use my white paint pen to redraw it, and then of course I would go over the line again into the black, and so I had to go back and forth between black and white to just really clean up these edges, especially on these stars. Like, this is the size of my fingernail, that's the size of a star. It was so hard to get this to be nice and crisp, to kind of have that contrast. I ended up, I think, using a gel pen for this instead of like the Jelly Roll gel pens instead of the Posca paint markers, because the tip was a bit finer. Maybe it would look nicer if I didn't have this thick white outline at the edge, but considering that this here is black flowers, I felt like it would have faded too much and not be as clean if I didn't have this white edge at the outline. I don't know, maybe I'll keep working on it and then go back and get rid of it and make that black. But for the moment, moral of the story, it's a beautiful page. I'm really happy with the color choices. I think the effect is really cool to make it look like a sticker. And it was just really annoying to do, and it was hard to do because when you're coloring something that you're not into coloring, but you feel like you want to make it good, and so you're pushing yourself to keep coloring it, it turns into a chore instead of a hobby. And this was, I think, the lowest point of my month, was coloring this page. So it's beautiful, but I don't have good emotional associations with it. So yeah, so that's the one that I got done with Rooms of Wonder by Johanna Basford. So at this point, it was approaching the end of the month. I had the Rooms of Wonder page done, I had the Erie page done, I had the Kirby page done. This was the only page that I really enjoyed doing. And it was also, you know, around a month to only do 3 pages, started to feel like a slog. And so I was actually kind of struggling this month, guys. I hit a coloring low, and I think that's part of why I didn't have so many pages completed. However, towards the end of the month, something happened that completely re-motivated me and brought back my coloring mojo. And that is the release of Magical Worlds by Johanna Basford. So I have really gotten into this book, and also I feel really good about the coloring color-along videos that I've been producing for this book. They've really inspired me and kind of given me a bit of a method of how to create color-alongs that contain a bit of a story, have enough real-time footage plus time-lapse footage to make it interesting to watch, but also informative to watch, right? Because there's 2 kinds of YouTube art videos you can make. You can either fall into the category of art education, or you can fall into the category of art entertainment. And if you do the fun, edited, fast, color-along videos, that's entertainment because you can't really learn from them. But if you have color-alongs that are just hours and it can feel a bit plodding, and it's sometimes hard to watch things that are so long. I find it hard to watch things that are so long. Then you kind of lose entertainment value, and even though it's educational, it feels a bit drier. And so I'm trying to get to like a magic middle between these 2, where it's entertaining to watch, but it's also easy to follow along and instructive. And I feel as though I'm starting to hit my stride with that because of this book. So I didn't even want to get this book. I had ordered this book and forgot that I had ordered this book. And when it was coming out like a couple weeks ago, and I was thinking to myself, I should order this book, I was like, nah, I'll pass. I've ordered too many books recently. I'm trying not to have like a mega big collection. I'm trying not to, you know, ride the popularity waves of all the new releases, because that's just gonna have me accumulate more than I can handle. But I had ended up ordering it, and I got this message from Amazon saying your package is on its way, and I was like, what package? And the next day I got Magical Worlds, which was very cool that it actually happened that way, because I wasn't expecting it. So I had recorded a flip-through video, and then I deleted it. I didn't post it because there's just so many flip-through videos that came out at the same time. It's like, do people really want to watch another flip-through video of someone talking about the book? And so I deleted it. And instead, I started to color in it. And I decided to begin with these small vignettes. And it was so fun to do because I was using color palettes, and I had picked these two color cubes from Sarah Renee Clark's Color Cubes, and that's number 205 and 208 because they're just such happy, fun, bright colors. And they have some overlap, right? Like this color overlaps, that color overlaps, and it gives you some nice variety from pinks to purples to like blues and tealy greens, plus a bit of a bright green as well. And I started with this buddy over here. I'll zoom you in here. And so I created just a quick color along. I did it in double speed, and I kind of like framed it with these, and then had my pencils on the side, and it just felt so inspirational, and it worked. It was like a 10-minute video explaining how to do this. After the fact, by the way, I put in a tiny bit of Wink of Stella to give it some glow, but that's not in the original video, but I added that in afterwards to all of them. My frog's little belly over there is glittery. And then I also was experimenting with having a fade out in the background, because normally I don't know how to do this. I normally never do this, where I have the colored pencils and I just kind of like fade it out into the background. And I started doing that for this one here to just kind of teach myself how to do that, as I was teaching you all how to do that with my video editing. So yeah, it was really fun. So I started with that one, then I created this one, and then I did this one, and then I did this one, and they're all the same color pencils based off of this palette. And so I'm going to do this as an entire series of just 10-minute quick tutorial videos using this exact same color palette and I guess just way of coloring. And what that's going to do is create a cohesive looking page. Because that's another thing. I don't want the page to look all over the place by having just like a mayhem of color. So it's going to give it that cohesion and make it look really pretty. And so yeah, so I really got inspired and started doing these. So then what I did was I posted it online, and then someone in the comments said that they want to see this colored along. And then I was like, ooh, that's actually a good idea. Instead of me picking the page, why don't I have people who subscribe to me tell me what they want me to color for them in this book? And so that's what I did. And I'm in love with this one as well. At first I was debating between the colors. Should I do this having kind of like pinkish going into bluish for like sunset and sunrise and sunset? And then I was remembering when I was a kid, I used to have something like this hanging in my bedroom, and it was blue, silver, and gold with gold edging. And I don't know what those things are called. I think they're very like 90s. And it was like wooden, and it was just really pretty, just kind of like hanging above my bed. And so that's the one that I decided to do here. So I did it only in Prismacolor pencil because I know that's easier for people to follow along. And I also used my Thule art pens to do the silver and the gold, and a tiny bit of silver detailing here and a bit of gold detailing there. And so I used a range of pencils as well, going from like really lights to really dark with the indigo blue and the black, and just kind of showed people how to do a nice gradient out. And here we go. So this is the first full page spread that I did in this book, and I felt like I was on a roll. It also, I think, just really helped that a subscriber said that they wanted to see it, because then I was like, oh, I could do this for you because you want this page done. Because sometimes when you're creating YouTube videos, you feel as though it's hard to read the audience, right? Like, aside from like the likes and the comments, how do you know if what you're doing is what people want to see? And so just having it be given to me so directly was really helpful. So then I created a community tab post, and I asked people in the community, what else do you want to see from this book? And then someone answered and said they wanted the fox. So then this is the one that I finished on Halloween Day, actually. And so yeah, this was again kind of based off of that same idea of having someone tell me what they want to see, and then I do it. And it was just so motivating. Like, I don't know why it's so motivating. It was just so motivating to get it done. I was like, ooh, it felt like a commission, you know, like I was on a mission. And so I did this one, and it was really fun to do, and I have a full color along for this one on my channel as well. again with a mix of real-time and time-lapse. So I real-timed it every time I did an element. So when I colored one of these leaves, I zoomed in and then had a slow real-time with explanation, and then I zoomed out and then time-lapsed the rest, and then zoomed in and did another element, so on and so forth. The fox himself, the entire thing is in real time as well. So that way it's hopefully clear but also entertaining, and the video was only 25 minutes. But yeah, so the colors to choose this, I initially started with these in my color cube palettes, thinking I kind of want to go somewhere here, and then I threw in purple. And so that kind of threw this out the window, but it was my starting point because I wanted the greens to not be earthy greens. I wanted them to have a bit more interest to them, and that's why I went for these tealy bluey greens. And I liked this one because I wanted pink flowers, but I also wanted an orange fox. So this gave me the green, the pink, and the, well, when I say gave me, it's like I already knew I wanted these colors, right? But this gave me permission to use these colors because I could literally see that the colors look well together. I ended up not using the yellow and then threw in the purple instead. And that made it a bit cooler for the background. But then it still seems to work with the warm fox you have in the center. And so the way I kind of approached the page was I just started with what I knew in terms of the colors. And so the first ones that I did were the big curly leaves. And then once I did all of those, the next thing I knew I wanted to do was have these be purple. So then I made those purple. And then I paused. I was like, all right, before I finish the background, I need to see if it looks good against the fox. So then the third thing I did was color in the fox. And then once I had the fox down, I then was like, all right, I think pink flowers could still work. So I did the pink flowers, and then I put in the rest of the leaves, a bit similar to the curly ones, but you can see here that this has a bit of spring green in it, so that makes it a bit lighter. And this has some aqua in it. And so that blue tone makes it a bit cooler, and this yellowy tone makes it a bit lighter. So I was trying to have a bit of differentiation and variety between those leaves. So once I did those, I had these small flowers left to do, and I decided, you know what, I actually want to leave them white, because if I introduce yet another color, it's going to get way too messy. And so I colored in the center of the flowers, and then to make it look different from the background, because white on white just is not going to work, I filled in the background with my cobalt turquoise, but only in the areas in between the flowers. So it's not coming in here, it's not coming in there, it's only coming in here, just kind of giving it like a nice, it looks full, I guess, and it makes the wreath look nice and verdant and full. And so that's the one that I did in this book here. Had nothing at all to do with Halloween. None of these pages had anything at all to do with Halloween. They do have some nice Halloween colorings in here. They have like a witch's thingy and a pumpkin. So that's the pumpkin, and then they have like a witch's room somewhere. It's actually not that big of a book too. I like it because it's not so many pages, and that makes me feel as though I can actually complete this whole book. Yeah, that's the witch's room that I skipped, so I'll have to do those next year. So that gives me ideas, right? So then I can do this next October, and then the space pages, like this one here, I can do it next September for Spacetember, and it just allows me a bit more variety in doing this book. But yeah, so far, everything that I've colored in this book has been online in a color along. And because I'm starting that strong, I actually feel that I could potentially have this entire book be a color along to follow. And I've been wanting to do that for a while, right? I keep getting books, for example, Atlantis, saying I'm going to do that with Atlantis, and then it never happens. And then I was thinking, even with Eerie, I could do that with Eerie. But the problem is, she's such a new artist for me that everything I'm doing is so experimental, and I don't want that experimentalism to be in my color along. Versus here, I feel like I know sort of what I'm doing so far, and I'm sticking just with Prismacolor pencils for the moment. I'll probably branch into other materials soon, but it just feels as though it's cleaner, easier, and quicker to kind of do a full color along here because I'm experimenting a bit less. And so I can just make it a crisp, clear, beautiful page without doing what I often do. when I experiment, which is to color something, not like it, use a paint marker to cover it up and then recolor it. I'm not allowed to go back and forth like that if I'm making a color along, right? It has to be to the point the first go. And for some reason, I'm able to do that successfully so far with this book and not with the other books. But yeah, let me know if that interests you, right? If you would like to see Magical Worlds just kind of turn into like a full book color along. I'm on a roll. I feel like I can do it with this book in a way I have not been able to feel like I could do it with other books. And also let me know if you want any, if you want to commission any color alongs as well, because like I mentioned, it's so motivating to know what I want to do. In terms of future coloring plans for this book for November, someone had requested the baby dragons. I know that Emily Illustrator had done one of the baby dragons in her lives using gouache. So cool, by the way. I want to start using gouache now, but I'll probably be using Prismacolor pencils because I know that's a bit more beginner friendly for people. And anyway, yeah, this was the next one that was commissioned for me, was these four little creatures over here playing around. So that's next on my agenda. So yeah, Magical Worlds kind of brought me back into my coloring mojo, and as you can see from my voice even, it made me super excited. All right, so you have now looked at all of the different coloring pages that I had done for October, plus how I was feeling as I was coloring them. Let's talk a tiny bit about November. So if the main lesson that I learned is color for joy instead of obligation, essentially what that means to me is I'm going to be trying to motivate myself with the different challenges, but as soon as it starts to feel like a chore, to finish the page I'm working on and then stop the challenge and move on to something else. So when I'm thinking in terms of where I could use inspiration to figure out which pages I want to color, I have certain categories. One is anything that's fall themed as a page, that's not Halloween themed as a page. And so that kind of ends the fall cozy season, since December kind of goes more into the Christmas coloring. A second option is to do any of the challenges or buddy colors that are kind of set by other groups. So for example, some of the Instagram hashtags or buddy colors, or in the Facebook groups, sometimes they have challenges they set out for the month, or just with people wanting to buddy color with each other. That's another category. My third category is to continue with my journey on the Magical Worlds and continue coloring in those pages based maybe on the suggestions of whoever wants a color along, wants to commission a color along. So that will be my third category of what I might consider to color. And then the final one is going to be to finish up my whips, because I really don't like whips. They annoy me. I just want to make sure that all the pages I have, I've completed so that it's just done, because it's hard to come back to something once you abandon a project and then you have a half completed project in a book. It doesn't sit right. I need to complete my whips. So those are my four kind of guiding stars. But again, anytime I feel as though it's too much, I'm going to stop and then just color what I want, or just stop coloring until I can feel the need to color again, try to get my mojo back. All right, let's look at the potential options that I have for this month. Let's begin with my project series, the Worlds Within Worlds by Kirby Rosens, and I also have Alien Worlds as well. So in this book here, the main standing whip that I had, which I showed you earlier, is this one. And I could also do this as a tutorial to show you how to do this neon glow. So that's going to be one of the options that I have to complete for this month. But when you're talking about whips and other things too, I had started this a while ago, just with this green at the bottom, following Karen from My Colorful Country Life, and then I ended up, for some reason or another, not finishing it. So I would like to finish this, but deviate away from her coloring entirely, and then just make this whole page orange. Just have it kind of be a fall themed page. And this could also fulfill a couple different Instagram hashtags as well, and have it be like fulfilling my desire to do Worlds Within Worlds, plus make it like a nice fall theme page and finish a whip. So a lot of motivation for finishing these two pages. So since Jane over on I think she does Colored with Love on Instagram, and on Facebook she does the group Fancy World of Kirby Resents. She does those little challenges. The challenge prompt for this month is royalty. And so I asked some buddy colors if they wanted to do these pages, and they said yes for this left one. And so then that would be an option as well to do is this one here to fulfill the royalty prompt. And maybe even this one too, depending on how motivated I am to do 2 spreads. But that would be 5 pages from Worlds Within Worlds. And that's a lot if I normally color between like 6 to 7 pages in a month, but those are the ones that I have as options, and I might try to make it go faster by using like watercolor backgrounds or my little ink pad backgrounds as well. And those are my options here for Worlds Within Worlds. But it'll be nice to get something done here. I'm going to try to make it my goal to do at least 1 page a month from Worlds Within Worlds. It's like I have so many colored, but I'm not even halfway through. It's crazy. If I look at my coloring count at the back of this book, I've only done 36 out of 83. I need to get this to 42, so 4 more pages, and then I'll be officially halfway through. And then I can do like a midway point coloring video to show you what I've done with Worlds Within Worlds. The other Kirby option that I have is going to be Alien Worlds, again because I'm part of the Alien Worlds group and because I have WIPs here being part of the Alien Worlds group. So that is to finish Nico Simi's color along for this. Coloring metals always looks so cool, but it's such a pain to do. But I finished the metal work on this side. I just have to finish the metal work literally only in this corner, and then use some acrylic paint in the background for a galaxy sky. So hopefully I should be able to get this done fairly quickly, and that'll be 2 pages from here as some of my long-standing WIPs. Otherwise, when I'm thinking in terms of Eerie, because like I mentioned, I do want to do 1 Eerie page a month, I'll still come in from the second tail here because I have a WIP that I had done in September, I believe. Yeah, with Amy Ward from Amy Ward Art, that neither of us have finished. And so I would just finish this page, and then that would be my Eerie page for the month, and it'll be a completed WIP as well. And it's the only WIP that I have in any of Eerie's books. And it's the only one that I really feel like coloring from Eerie this month as well. So that'll be that one as potential from Romantic Country. All right, and then we have Johanna Basford, the different WIPs that I have in her pages here. I'm not counting, by the way, Enchanted Forest. This is my original Johanna Basford books when I first started coloring, and I have a lot of like half completed and badly completed pages. I'm not going to color in this book anymore. I'm holding on to it for memory's sake and maybe use it as like exploration. But it's the book that had taught me how to color, but like, I mean, how can I fix this page unless I use acrylic paint because I used alcohol markers on this side, right? Or like here, I just have this random smudge because I was testing out different mediums. I'm not considering this. I'm not considering any of the works in here WIPs that I want to complete because I'm not going to color in this book again. So that leaves just these 3 books of Johanna Basford's to do. So from World of Flowers, I just have 1 WIP here that I had started when I was experimenting with my 36 set of Polychromos pencils. And so it's pretty, right? Like the flowers are kind of nice and pretty, and I'm learning how to fade it to white in the center because I only have 36 colors. So it just takes a while though. Polychromos they are a slow medium to use, and they're rough on your wrists if you try to rush them. But this is the one that I could potentially do here. Just a really beautiful, mindless World of Flowers book. I also have from Rooms of Wonder, the first page is a WIP technically. That's this one here. The title page, I had started with some gold outlining and then I didn't do anything, and then I started with some gold there and then I stopped. So these 2 are WIPs from Rooms of Wonder that I will need to at one point complete. And then finally with Magical Worlds, there are no WIPs in this one, but it could be an interesting one to do. So for this, the suggestions that I had been given that could be interesting to do are, I think I mentioned already, the baby dinosaurs, wherever they are. Come on, show yourselves. out here. So then suggestions are to do these 4 baby dinosaurs. That's what one person had suggested, and then my partner had suggested doing this bird page here as well. So those are some options that I have from here, although it might change depending on what I want to do. And of course, I will be continuing with finishing this series as well, try to finish this by the end of the year. So 4 down, 8 more to go, and it should be really nice and pretty. And that's my options for Magical Worlds. So Johanna Basford, I do have a few more ideas for what to do here, and that's because my friend Sabina on Instagram is running a hashtag with her friend Louisa, and it's about Christmas wreaths, and so, or just any wreaths, and it's from November to December. And so the caveat is it has to be like a full page wreath. So this one has a couple. You have, this one's more like a spring wreath, this is maybe a fall wreath, and then you have 2 Christmas wreaths. Or you could say, maybe she meant spring, summer, fall, and winter. But these 2 would be the wreaths that I might potentially do from Small Victories. That's an option to kind of join in on her hashtag. Otherwise, if you jump into Johanna's Christmas and I start Christmas coloring early, there are tons of wreaths here. For example, I could do this one. I could even consider this a wreath. Yeah, just any of the circular motifs in this book could be considered a wreath to do. Try to find one more. Nope. 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 There has to be at least one more wreath. It's a fun book. It's beautiful. As you can see, I've colored a lot in it. That's ironic. Here, I guess that could be considered another wreath as well. Here, finally. Another wreath page. So that's an option from Johanna's Christmas. All right, and then otherwise, I had started this here. It's the printout of her Small Victories before her release, and it's the bigger version of some of the ones there. I had done this one in October because I did some of the workshops with Barbara Color, actually, in Belgium, which were really fun. And the way I had done this was use it as an opportunity to test out different pencils. So you have Polychromos, Luminance, Lightfast, Arctics, which were my least favorite. And then you had, I think this was Albert Dürer, Chromaflow, and then Derwent Graphite Tint. So I would just finish these 2 as well as my whips. My favorite of all these pencils were the Chromaflow. They felt, I guess, the most familiar, kind of like Prismacolors, except they had a much firmer point to them. So it felt like a firmer version of a Prismacolor, but with the same color intensity, which I really enjoyed. Arctics were just like, there's not enough pigment in them. It was not working out. Lightfast were nice, but I found them a bit hard to work with. Like I couldn't figure them out. Luminance were really beautiful, nice thick rich pigments, but crumbled more easily, I felt, than Prismacolor because they're thicker. And Polychromos were just hard to work with. I find them hard to work with, but the colors were nice. I got that nice gradiated background, by the way, by Barbara. Gave me a technique of using Inktense on top of a pencil. So normally I do Inktense below a pencil, but she showed me how to do Inktense on top of a pencil. And that's how you kind of get like a nice dark gradient. So I just have to finish these 2. Easy to do. And then this page would be complete. So then the final ones that I have that need completion are going to be from books that I never color in since I started my channel. One of them is Sacred Places, and it's a really, really beautiful, beautiful, mindful book because it has all of the quotes by, I don't know how to say his name, Thich Nhat Hanh, who has like really wonderful, peaceful quotes. For example, the mind can go in 1,000 directions, but on this beautiful path I walk in peace. With each step a gentle wind blows, with each step a flower blooms. Like, he's just so beautiful. I would maybe finish the background of this page. I had started with marker, trying to create a cloud, and then I gave up. And I guess I would do this with paint or something to cover up the marker there. But I had done this book kind of going back and forth between different mediums way before I started my channel. This was in 2022. So it's gorgeous, right? Like the quote is, "This morning's dawn and here I am, a cup of steaming tea, a green lawn, your sudden image from long ago, your hand on the wind beckoning, the shining of the tree's new bud." Like, it's just beautiful. And then the illustrator's Jason DeAntonis. And so this is a mix of acrylic paint pens and some pencil work and alcohol markers that I did here. The sky was initially like multicolored just for sunset vibes. It didn't work, so then I redid the whole thing in paint pens, and that's why like it kind of seeps through because I did a messy job of it, but it's okay. And there's a little donkey who's kind of like mixed in with the background. Then you have this gorgeous page here. And again, just because I don't know how to use my materials back then, I just did layer upon layer upon layer, just mixing alcohol inks with Prismacolor pencils and a tiny bit of Posca pen, trying to make this look okay. But I love the overall end result. I think it's really beautiful. This was my favorite. I felt like I was starting to finally figure out my alcohol marker game, even though I still was a bit blotchy there. I can do that much better now. And I just loved the colors that I was kind of getting as well, layering pencils on top of my limited set. I also had like a super small set of like 30, 40 something alcohol markers, or maybe even 24 alcohol markers at the time. I have way more now. And then this one took me forever to figure out the light source and the shadings, right? Because if the light was coming from here, this had to be backlit. So I initially had it front lit, and then my dad pointed out if the light source is here, this is backlit, not front lit. So then I had to kind of go over it with pencil and then redo the lighting. Do you know how hard that is to change backlit to front lit? Or sorry, front lit to backlit. It was really hard, but I succeeded, I think. It was really fun to do, just kind of getting my light sources down here. And the poem that goes with this one is, sound and light penetrate everywhere, and our love must do the same. It's really sweet. Anyway, I have whips. So there's this one. This one is done, but I don't like it. I want to keep adding to it. He also has really thick line work, which is a bit hard, I think. But otherwise, just other super random scribbles. My nephew had done this one. Trying to correct over something that a 6-year-old did as a challenge, but I think I can figure it out with paints. And again, my niece this time did this one, and so I'll just continue adding on that as well. I feel like there's one more whip somewhere. Yeah, I had started this one using horrible supplies, and as you can see, it's terribly done. It kind of looks like a dying, bleeding tree at this point as opposed to anything nice, but I could paint over this and fix this one. And the poem goes, here is the foot of a tree, here's an empty, quiet space. But yeah, I had stopped coloring in this, even though it was really fun to do, and I do kind of want to, at one point, finish this book too. I think it's a very calming book to do, and it's very different in its style, right? It has such thick line work, but the accompanying poems are nice, and they're single-sided, so you can use alcohol markers on them. But there you go. Maybe come back and finish some whips in this one. And then I have Elegant Beauties, the Beauteous Elegance. This one my sister had started before she gave me the book. So I'll just be finishing her whip, and it's a grayscale coloring book, some super thin pages, but could be fun. This one I had done as my first one over the summer. Her face is still a bit ashy, right? She looks, I guess, ashen, like she's like doesn't have enough life in her. There's too much gray in her face. Like she looks like she just, I don't know, needs a good meal. But and then the background was watercolor and super blotchy and bled through, so crazy thin paper. But that's an option to finish that from Elegant Beauties by Alina Lazareva. And then finally, this one I had gotten like years ago because I was watching Temi Danso on Art's YouTube channel do it in alcohol markers, and I wanted to follow along and do the same. But I had started and I completely messed up the face, right? It's just like, what is that for shading and shadowing? Horrible. I didn't know, no idea what I was doing. And then I stopped. So that's my whip from years ago that I could potentially finish as well. So there you go, guys. A bit of a long video, but that's kind of like explaining where I am right now in my coloring journey. Thank you very much for watching if you watched this far, and do let me know if you have any suggestions for magical worlds that you want me to color in next. I'm very motivated to kind of get those done as well. And I will see you all next time. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.